Hey everybody, it's Scott Henninger with eXp Realty and the home team. Something came to mind a couple of days ago when I was listing a commercial property in Gray, and that is sharing with you guys kind of the tips, tricks we use when we're evaluating properties. When I listed this one, I went and met with the owner, gave her some different figures, and we talked and found out that there were two other agents that she wanted to talk to before she made a decision. So it got me thinking, do agents in general that don't do commercial work or maybe don't do as much know really how you need to evaluate a commercial property? Because it's not the same. So I'm going to do kind of a comparison. So for example, this morning I was running comps for a home we're going to talk to somebody about this evening. They're trying to decide if they want to sell, they want to know how much money they're going to get. So I sat down and ran comps. And how do we do that? First, comps are comparable sales. I will try to go, to start with, within a quarter of a mile, wherever the property is, if I can. I will go probably plus and minus 15 or 20% on the total living square footage, and then see what I got. If I've got only two, then I'll extend out to maybe half a mile, see how many that gives me. So I'll either expand or contract, and if I've got a lot, I'll just narrow down to the neighborhood and forget about the mileage radius around it. So in this case, it was Sunnybrook, just down the street here. I was able to look within a quarter mile, and I think I found roughly 10 properties that meet that criteria. They were plus or minus 15% on the square footage. So I knew that the subject property, the people we're going to meet with, had only been in it a few years and it had been remodeled. So I flipped through all the pictures of the comparable properties I had to pick out only those that have been updated, because I don't want to compare a home with 1950s cabinets and countertops to one that's been updated for obvious reasons. It's totally different. And by the way, while I'm on this subject, this is a good reason why you don't just use Zillow when you're trying to figure out what your home's worth. Zillow hasn't been inside the home. They don't know whether it's updated or not. They don't have a clue what your home's really worth. That's why you need an agent to go in and take a look. So I'll get off my Zillow soapbox for now. So I got it narrowed down. I found 3 good properties that had been updated somewhat. Now I've got a range. I know it's going to be probably between $110, $115 a square foot. And when I get to the property, depending on its condition, I may go to the lower end, I may go to the upper end, or even outside that range. You really don't know till we get there. But before I go on an appointment, I like to have a good idea of what we're looking at least to have a range on the low end and the high end. So there's that. With residential, that's typically what we'll do. Commercial is a different ballgame. And let me give you an example. Let's say the property we listed, like I mentioned, it had 6 residential units in it. It also had roughly 3,000 square foot of space that could be used for retail or office in the bottom floor. So I can't just go and look at what I might consider a comparable property based on square footage. I really can't base it just geographically either. I don't want to be looking in Knoxville, but in the same token, with commercial properties, there aren't nearly as many sales. So you're going to have to be a little more generous as you're looking out. So I did check Johnson City. I looked in Kingsport and of course Gray, try to find anything in Bristol that might be somewhat similar. So I might have, when I'm on initial search, I might have properties that have 20 units. I might have some that have 4. Some might have 6, maybe some 12. That isn't as an important a factor when you're valuing commercial properties. So how do we do it? Since we're not using square footage, we need to know, and this is what an investor wants to know that's likely to purchase one of these, what is going to be my return? And one of the numbers that an investor will use is called a cap rate. And if you've not heard of cap rate, it's short for capitalization rate. And it's defined as the net operating income divided by the price. So in this example, we're trying to come up with our price so we know net operating income, because I got those numbers from the owner, and what should the cap rate be. That's the trick. So when you're looking at comparable properties, what you try to do is find the listings that have sold that you had the financial data for. So I will know what their total rent roll was, how much money they were bringing in annually. And a lot of the listings, they'll put in expenses, their operating expenses. You subtract the two, you've got your net operating income. If you don't have expenses, which some agents won't put that in the MLS, you just have to make some assumptions. And a lot of times I'll assume about 22.5%. Could be higher or lower. It varies greatly in the property. But anyway, that's a general idea. So then what I did for the comparables, I looked in the area to see what a going cap rate was. And just to give you a feel, a cap rate to an investor varies based on how risky the investment is. So for a multifamily property that seems to be in good shape, it's probably got low vacancy rates because it's in a good area and it's going to rent well, an investor might expect to get, say 7.5 to maybe as high as 10.5%. That's a good feel. So for us to price the property, what I do is, now I've got my net operating income, I'll make an assumption on the capitalization rate and then back calculate out and see what we should list it for and what it might sell for. So it is a different ball game. Not to say anything bad about the other two agents. I'm sure they did a great job when they made their presentation, but I do know that they did not calculate cap rates, and that is not how they arrived at their numbers. They picked a unit, one of the agents picked a unit that had 17, and they divided, all right, well, there's 17 units, this is how much it was getting per unit, and I'll just multiply that by 6 and extrapolate that at the purchase price, and that's about what you ought to get. Well, that's not the right way to do it. An investor wants to know how much return they're going to get on their investment, and the cap rate's a good indicator of what their investment will return. It's not all inclusive. You know, it's a simple calculation, and it does take into account net operating income, but it doesn't take into account things like your income taxes. It doesn't take into account several other things, but it's a good basic figure to help you determine how to price your commercial property. So if you need any help, if you have any questions, I would love to talk to you. My name's Scott Henninger, again, with eXp and the home team here working in the Tri-Cities. My number, best way to reach me is 423-612-5357.